What's going on, everybody? It's Spy Swizzle from Next Phase. Today we're going to be talking how to approach your jump to Lightspeed pre-release. We're going to be talking about the cards that you should be looking for, the combos you could pull off, the rares, the leaders, and everything that's going to set you up the best to win. Before we talk about any of those, we're going to go over the basic rules of sealed. For sealed, you want to make sure that you're utilizing all of your rares. You're going to open up 6 packs. Each one of these packs will have at least 1 rare, possibly 2 for some of them, and you want to make sure that you're using these rares as much as you possibly can, combining all of your rares into one deck. This doesn't mean adding a rare that's very niche and won't do anything for your deck, but if you get for example, a trench run and then they hate that ship and then you combine it with another good command rare, I mean, that's a niche scenario, but if you were able to do that, you have a good chance of winning the game. Resource your filler cards. You're going to build a 30 card deck, and you're not going to have 30 good cards in that deck. You want to make sure that you're resourcing the cards that you kind of just threw in there because they don't help you do what you want to do. Now, sometimes these cards can come up and be really helpful, and you're like, oh my god, I'm glad I added that. But most of the time, these cards are just going to be resources, and they're going to help you play the cards that you really built this deck around. You want to stay away from niche leaders. Phasma and Holdo are good examples. Phasma deals with first order trait units, and Holdo deals with resistance units, and you're just not going to get 10 of those. Like, you're not going to have enough of those for these decks to work out. Maybe Holdo more than Phasma, but it's just not going to work out with those 2 leaders or any niche leader that deals with something like that, and you want to stay away from those. The final is, don't use the rare bases. Now, a lot of guys like to meme it out, and if you want to meme, go ahead and meme. But if you're trying to approach this pre-release with a win, you're probably not going to do that with any of these rare bases. Alright, the first batch of leaders we're going to talk about are Aggro, Command, Heroism. These 3 leaders specifically are guys I think you should look out for. I think they're very good, and in a sealed environment, they do what they need to do fast, and that's kind of how sealed goes. Wedge lets you play a card from your hand using piloting, and it costs 1 less. This is a really crazy ability. Imagine you play your 2-cost space unit turn 1, and then in that same turn, tap Wedge to play what would normally be 1-cost pilot for free onto that space unit, and now you have a piloted 2-cost space unit on turn 1 that your opponent probably wants to try to deal with right away. Wedge flips at 5 as a 3/6 as a unit, or a 3/4 as a pilot, and on attack, the next pilot card, so not piloting, but pilot trait card you play this phase, costs 2 less. Luke Skywalker is tap. If you attacked with a fighter unit this phase, deal 1 damage to a unit. There's plenty of common fighter units, especially in these 2 colors. You'll probably be attacking with them, and you get to just do an additional 1 damage. He flips at 6 as a 5/6. Or as a pilot as a 4/5 that can't be defeated by enemy card abilities, and the attached unit will gain, if it's a fighter, it'll gain on attack, you make the 3 damage to a unit. That's a really crazy ability. In limited, that's going to be cracked. You'll probably be killing most of their guys doing that. The only problem is he comes out 6, which could be a little late. Your games are going to be really aggro and fast. You want to make sure that you could probably flip your leader out a little earlier. Poe Dameron is tap, pay 1, flip this leader and attach him as an upgrade to a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot on it. So you're basically getting a free 2, well, not free, you're getting a 1-cost 2/1 pilot every turn, or every time that he dies, you just get to pay 1 more and continuously have a 2/1 pilot. Really good ability, and he's gonna win you a lot of games just by buffing up your units constantly. So the commons and uncommons that you're looking for in this pool is going to be the Red Squadron Y-Wing. It's a 1/3, and on attack you deal 3 indirect damage to the defending player. I've played a few games with these cards already, and the Red Squadron Y-Wing is making its way into decks already. As a 1/3, it's not that enticing, but with the deal 3 indirect, it's really difficult for your opponent to deal with. You're basically doing, or you are doing 4 damage on attack with your turn 1 play. Your opponent's going to want to get rid of them, but 3 health is beefy enough to make it a little difficult to go ahead and swing at them. Phoenix Squadron A-Wing is a 2-cost 3/2. It's just a basic good sealed stat line. If you pull plenty of this, and it's also a fighter, I should say most of these are fighters. So it's a 3/2 that could just swing 3 damage into your opponent's base to start the game off. The droid missile platform is a 4/2, and when defeated, you deal 3 indirect to a player. Again, this is a 3 cost. This card, again, just like the Red Squadron Y-Wing, is really strong, because if your opponent wants to deal with this unit, they have to swing into 4 damage, and yeah, they'll probably kill it, but then after they kill it, they also have to do 3 indirect damage to themselves again. So that's 7 damage, rather if it's killing their unit, and 3 to their base, or any other way. It's hard to deal with. Your opponent probably doesn't want to swing into it, but it can get out of control being a 4 damage unit. R2-D2 over here is a free pilot. He could be played as a pilot for free, so again, just like having a turn 1 play and upgrading R2 to him, and he allows you to play another pilot on him, so you can really buff up whatever pilot you put R2. There's not a lot of removal in sealed, so R2 just kind of makes his way in as a good free card. Biggs Darklighter goes especially well with Wedge. He's a 1 cost pilot, and like I said before, you could just make him a free pilot, and if it's a fighter, it gains overwhelm. If it's transport, it gets +1 health, and if it's a speeder, it gets grit. So just a good card that you get to play for free in Wedge, or it's just a good card for Luke because it gives your units overwhelm. So it fits in this pool of leaders. Blue leader is a 3/3 for 3. He has ambush, but you can also play him and pay 2 to move him to the ground arena and give 2 experience tokens to it. This could be a really game-changing play for a leader that flips on 5. You pay 5 for red leader. He's a 5/5, and then you flip your leader onto him, and now it's a 5/5 plus whatever your piloting is. For rares, Trench Run, 100%. If you pull Trench Run, I really recommend playing Trench Run. It is a crazy strong card. You attack with a fighter unit for this attack. It gets +4 and gains. Discard 2 cards from the defending player's deck. Deal unpreventable damage equal to the difference in discarded cards to this unit. So you'll get a 1 cost +4 same attack action. And the only downside to this is you're going to be taking damage equal to the discarded cards differences. But again, I've played with these cards. That difference is rarely ever fatal. It's usually going to be 1, 2, at most 3 damage. It could be a drastic number that kills your unit. But if you got 7 damage off with this card, it's worth it. It's worth it no matter if your unit dies with it or not. They hate that ship. You just get to play a turn 1 play for really cheap, so you get to play a 3 cost for 1, and then you can eventually even play another 1 cost. Just lets you take a cheat units out and get real early. Your opponent does get to create 2 TIE Fighter tokens, but I don't think you're really worried about that, and they get to ready them, so maybe your opponent skips taking the initiative just to swing at your base for a measly, 2 damage. Luke Skywalker is a 3/2 as a unit, but he's better as a pilot, because as a pilot he's a 3/2 for 3, and if he's defeated you get to move him to the ground arena as a unit. So you get the benefit of playing him as a pilot. When he's defeated as a pilot, you get to play him as a unit. You get to just double use him for 3. It's really good value. Next is Villainy Swarm. The leaders I have for this is Darth Vader, Rio Durant, and Major Von Reg. You want to kind of go real wide with this approach. I've played plenty of games with Vader, and Vader can go wide. Rio Durant just seems like a mid, alright sealed leader, and Major Von Reg, if you're wide enough, giving a +1 to a unit isn't going to get them killed or isn't going to bother you. Vader is tap. If you attacked with a non-token vehicle unit this phase, create a TIE Fighter token. So you just get to constantly create a token after, because you're going to be swinging at your opponent. So you get a TIE Fighter. He's a 6 cost to flip. He's a 5/6 as a unit, or a 5/5 as a pilot. And when deployed as a pilot, you get to create 2 TIE Fighter tokens. So you're continuing to go wide and make a big board. Rio Durant, you would pay 1, tap, attack with a space unit. It gets +1 for this attack, and it gains Saboteur. He flips at 5 as a 3/5 as a unit, or as a 3/5 as a pilot. That also gains Saboteur, and if you put him on a transport, he also gets +1 attack. Major Von Reg lets you tap, play a vehicle from your hand. If you do, you give another unit +1 for the attack, or +1 for this phase. He flips at 4, so he really flips early, which could be game changing. He's a 3/3 at 4, and on attack you may give another unit in this arena +1. If you go wide, flip Von Reg at 4, swing at an opponent. Let's say on turn 4 you're swinging at their base for 6, and then you're giving another one of your units +1 attack. That's really strong, and it's going to make your opponent you know, slow. They won't be able to speed up with that. Some commons, uncommons that you're looking for this. For the wide idea, you want to go with Kajimi Patrollers and First Order TIE Fighter. When played, for the Kajimi Patrollers, when played, you get to create a TIE Fighter token. So you're getting a 1/1 Kajimi Patrollers and a 1/1 TIE Fighter token. That's going to continuously allow you to go wide, get your attacks in. You're not going to have the initiative a lot with this this type of play, but your opponent can't deal with all those units. First Order TIE Fighter is just while you have a token unit, it gets +1 attack, and it's a 3/1 4/1 with that raid 1. So he's going to be really strong, and again, for 1 cost, you're not really worried about losing him. Droid Missile Platform makes his way back here. It's again just a really strong unit, does 4 attack, only has 2 health, but when it's defeated, you get to do another 3 indirect damage to a player. Now for Dengar, a lot of players have been underrating Dengar. I've played against Dengar in Constructed, and his versatility as a 4/5/4 as a ground unit or a 1/2 as a pilot is really strong. I've played in plenty of games where I'm going wide in space, and then I try to take my opponent off guard and play a ground unit just for them to play Dengar to control it. You know, I could maybe swing into their base, but Dengar will handle that ground unit pretty fast. I think he's really versatile, and you should definitely add him to your deck no matter what. Wingman Victor 2, when played as an upgrade, you get to create a TIE Fighter token. For 1 cost, again, you're getting a +1/+1 and then a 1/1 TIE Fighter token. And TIE Bomber for 2, he's a 0/4, but on attack, you get to do 3 indirect damage to the defending player. 4 health for a 2-drop is pretty beefy, and getting 3 damage on attack, he's basically a 3/4 as an offensive player, and that's just really hard to deal with, and your opponent might not be worried about it at the beginning, but that 3 indirect could really stack. Some rares that you want to go with this: Victor Leader for sure. He gives each friendly space unit +1/+1. If you're going wide and swarming your opponent, those +1/+1s could be crazy, especially with Vader. Vader's going to make a bunch of tokens, and if you get +1/+1, those tokens become 2/2s. He's kind of hard for your opponent to deal with 4 health. On 3, maybe they have an answer for it, but then you're just making your opponent waste a turn just to swing at your Victor Leader. 2/2 yellow cunning unit. When played as a unit, you may attach this unit as an upgrade to an enemy vehicle unit without a pilot on it, and he gives -2 attack, -2 defense. You just want to do this. It's, again, kind of versatility. It's either a 2/2 unit or it's an answer for an opponent. There's not a lot of control in Sealed, especially this set, so you want to make sure that you have some answers to what they could do. Same with no glory only results, which lets you basically just defeat a unit, because there's not a lot of seal, or there's not a lot of control, so you want to make sure you can control your opponent's board as best as possible. Some honorable mentions is going to be Thrawn. Thrawn is when you use a when defeated ability, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, use that ability again. There's enough when defeated commons that Thrawn gets to shine. I think Thrawn could be pretty good. I just think with Thrawn, you want to approach it with a little more control. And like I said before, I don't think there's enough control units. He doesn't come out till 6 and he's a 4/7. The other 2 is going to be Boba Fett and Han Solo. Those are just, of course, going to be the ones that come with your pre-release kit. Boba Fett basically increases your indirect damage +1. And Han Solo is going to make you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a different odd cost, you get +1 for that attack. I think Han Solo is pretty unplayable in Sealed. I don't see you getting to take advantage of his ability too much. You know, you're not going to play a lot of high cost units, and then it has to be an odd cost. So it's really unfortunate. I don't think you could build a whole deck around Han Solo, but I think Boba Fett definitely has his spot in it. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. If you guys found this helpful and you end up winning your pre-release, come in the comments, let us know if you used any of our tips. Yeah, have a good one.